All right, you guys. So we started a new unit this week, focusing on radicals in the pre-geometry unit. Today we're going to start with simplifying and multiplying radicals or roots, and we're going to focus only on square roots for these lessons. So simplifying radicals is breaking them down, and I kind of put a few steps up here. Breaking them down means we're going to actually make a factoring tree, and we'll kind of go over that. You guys probably remember that from when you were younger. We're going to group pairs of the same number together from that factoring tree. And we're going to circle pairs because it's square roots. Okay, and then we're going to box in the numbers that are left over that don't make a pair. Pairs will go on the outside of the radical, and then singles or leftovers will go on the inside of the radical. Okay, so let's get started here so you kind of know what I'm talking about. Starting with 48. We're going to break down 48 with our factor tree. So any two factors of 48 will work. I just usually always pick the ones that come into my head first. So 6 times 8. 6 breaks down into 2 times 3. And those are done because they're both prime. 8 breaks down into 2 times 4. And 4 breaks into 2 and 2. Okay? Once you get all prime numbers, meaning numbers that only have factors that are 1 in themselves, then you're done. Now we circle pairs of those primes. So for instance, I have a pair of 2s right here. I have another pair of 2s here and here. And then I have one leftover prime, which is my 3, and I box that in. Then, to make our new simplified problem, we take 1 from every pair. So I have one pair of 2s, so I write down a 2. I have another pair of 2s, so I write down another 2 and multiply them together. Then my leftover number goes underneath the radical symbol. Okay, once you have that, you simplify what you have left and move on. So here I would have 2 times 2 is 4, and square root of 3 can't be simplified, so there's my answer. 4 times the square root of 3. Again, pairs come on the outside, 1 for each pair, and then my simplified or my leftover number goes on the inside. Okay, same thing. Let's do the next one. 1500. Break it out. I'm going to choose 15 and 100. Again, you can choose whatever numbers you want. 15 becomes 3 and 5. 100, I'm going to use 10 times 10. Then my 10 becomes 2 and 5. And my other 10 is 2 and 5 again. And I'm all prime now. Circling pairs. I have a pair of 2s. I have a pair of 5s. And then I have a leftover 3 and a leftover 5. So on the outside, again, a pair of 2s would be 2. A pair of 5s would be times 5. On the inside, my leftovers are 3 times 5. So I have 10 times the square root of 15. And there's my answer. Okay, here we go. Same type of thing. We now have a number on the outside, and we'll bring that into the equation here in just a minute. So 192, if I have 2 and 96, and then 3 and 32, and then 8 and 4. 8 breaks down to 2 and 4. 4 is 2 and 2. And this 4 is 2 and 2. Circling pairs. I've got this pair of 2s, and this pair of 2s, and this pair of 2s. And then I have one leftover 3. Okay, now the difference here is I also had a number already on the outside. So I'm going to start my outside numbers with 4 because it has to come down and be part of that. Then I have one pair of 2s here. That's a 2. Another pair here times 2, and another pair here times 2. My leftover number is 3, and it goes underneath. So when I multiply 4 times 2 times 2 times 2, I get 32, and the square root of 3 stays. Okay? Hopefully that's making a little more sense now. Let's go to our next one. 375. I'm going to use 5 and 75. 75 will be 3 and 25. And 25 will be 5 and 5. Pair of 5s, a leftover 3, a leftover 5. So out front is 5 for my pair. Then underneath, a 3 and a 5. So my answer 5 times the square root of 15. Okay, last one like this. 288. Now we already have an 11 out here, so we'll use that later. 288, if I do 2 and 144, 144, I'm going to use 4 times 36. Again, you can use whatever numbers you find that work. 4 becomes 2 and 2. 36, I'm going to use 4 times 9. 4 becomes 2 and 2 again, and 9 becomes 3 and 3. Pairs. 3s, 2s, 2s again, and a leftover 2. So again, we already have this 11. It's got to come down and start our process on the outside. 2 pairs of 2s and a pair of 3s times the square root of my leftover 2. So if I multiply those 4 together, I get 132 times the square root of 2. And that would be my answer. Okay. So that's simplifying by itself. Now, multiplying adds in one step. And that one step is to multiply any numbers on the outside of the radicals and any numbers on the inside of the radicals. Get your new problem that's simplified down, and then we're going to break that one down even further. Okay, so for here, 4 and 3 are on the outside, so I'm going to multiply those to get 12. 8 and 6 are underneath the radical, so if I multiply those, I get 48, and it stays underneath. Now I have 12 times the square root of 48, and 48 can be broken down. So I'm going to do the same process that we just did up top. 6 times 8, 6 is 2 and 3, 8 is 2 and 4 is 2 and 2. Circle your pairs again, pair of 2s, another pair of 2s, and a leftover 3. Okay, and just like earlier, this 12 on the outside has to come down and start our process. So I have 12 times pair of 2s times another pair of 2s, and 3s are our leftover. So 12 times 2 times 2 is 48 times the square root of 3. Okay? Next problem. Nothing on the outside, so let's multiply all 3 of these on the inside. 8 times 16 times 12 goes underneath, which is 1,536. A little bit bigger number here. I'm going to break it down. 2 into 768. 768 becomes 2 and 384. 384 becomes 2 and 192. 192 would be 2 and 96. 96 can be 3 and 32. 32 can become 8 and 4. Whoops, sorry. 8 becomes 2 and 4. 4 is 2 and 2. And 4 over here is 2 and 2. Lots of them this time. So pair of 2s here, pair of 2s here. I've got a 2 and a 2 here to make a pair of 2s here, and then I have a leftover 3 and a leftover 2. Okay, nothing on the outside, so I'm just going to start with my pairs. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 pairs of 2s. So 2 times 2 times 2 times 2, and my leftover is 3 times 2. So outside, 2 to the 4th is 16. Underneath, 3 times 2 is 6. And there's my answer. Okay, hopefully you're catching on here. Not too hard. All right, let's go to the next one. Outsides would be negative 2 times 3, which gives me negative 6. Insides, 10 times 14 gives me 140. And let's break it down. 140 would be 14 and 10. 14, 2 and 7. 10, 2 and 5. I've got a pair of 2s. And then I have 7 and 5 left over. Now, I already have a 6 that has to start our process. So negative 6, a pair of 2s here means times 2. Underneath would be 7 times 5. So this gives me negative 12 times the square root of 35. Okay, doing great. One more here. We're almost done. So I'm going to have 2 numbers on the outside, because this number is going to be like a 1, so it's not going to change anything. 8 times 2 gives me 16 times the square root of 3 times 50 times 2, which is 3,000. All right, 3,000. I'm going to break it into 30 and 100. 30 becomes 3 and 10. 10 would be 2 and 5. For 100, I'm going to do 2 and 50. 50 is 2 and 25. And 25 would be 5 times 5. So, pair of 5s, this pair of 2s, and then I have an extra 2, an extra 5, and an extra 3, along with 16 on the outside. So 16 is going to start our process times a pair of 2s times a pair of 5s. And then underneath we have a 3 times 2 times 5. So these 3 numbers together would give you 160 times the square root of these 3 numbers, which is 30. Okay, let me know what you have questions on.